All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making up plays. We talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays.
Unmute my mic. All right, welcome to the All Sports All Plays morning show. I am Ray Cruz. Craig, my co-host, is on a little bit of a break right now. He'll be back. He'll be joining us sometime during this show. He has some important engagement he had to take care of today. This morning, first part of this morning, so he had some personal some. He'll be on the show later on today. We got a good show for you today. We are going to talk about the World Series first game. Phillies go to Houston to play the Houston Astros, and that game will be played tonight. So we're going to be talking about that today. We're going to be talking about the Thursday night football. We got a little bit of reaction from Tom Brady. Big headlines around the news right now is Brady feeling the sting of the latest loss of as a Buck. Fall to 3-5, has lost 3 games in a row for a very long time. For a very, very long time. So Craig just said that his stuff has just wrapped up. He'll be on in a few minutes. So we're going to get this thing lively here. We're going to talk about the top headlines of the sports world today. I'm going to go ahead and remove this. I sound very loud with 2 headphones in, so I always want to cut that down a little bit. All right, so we got the Rams wide receiver cup NFL game should be on grass. He's talking about the artificial turf should be all changed on grass. So that's a key thing that the Rams wide receiver Cooper Kupp has came out. Silva has given the green light to fight after the KO comments. We'll talk about a little bit about that here momentarily. Neymar cleared of corruption over Barca's transfer. So we got a little bit of that. Healthy Mayfield rolling with the punches as QB2. So he's going to be a QB2 now. He's not going to be the starting quarterback for the Carolina Panthers. He accepted the role as being the backup, so he will be QB2. The Academy shut down according to principal. The Chiefs acquired Giants wide receiver Tony from the University of Florida. The former first-round draft pick for the Giants have traded him to the Chiefs. We'll talk about that trade here. And the Miami Hurricane has landed the number 4 recruit in the 2023 class, quarterback McClain. We'll talk a little bit about that. So we're going to look here. Let's talk about Silver's KO comment here. He had to get cleared up. That was in the big issue of the Arizona Commission. For the fight with Silva versus one of the Paul brothers, Jake Paul, Anderson Silva. The big news was Anderson Silva has been cleared to compete in the boxing match Saturday against Jake Paul after his comments from an interview nearly upended the bout. The Arizona Boxing and MMA Commission agreed to let Silva fight during a special meeting Thursday night after requiring the MMA legend to take an extra medical exam a day earlier. This was according to the commissioner. Chairman Scott Fletcher said at the meeting that he attended the Paul Silva news conference Thursday. He came away impressed by how Silva was able to articulate himself while answering questions. Fletcher said that Silva submitted a pristine MRI he was completely comfortable with and letting the former longtime UFC middleweight champion fight. This is according to Dr. Aaron Feinstein, a commissioner who is also a surgeon and a ringside physician, said he reviewed Silva's neurological report and MRI and saw no issue with them. He also quoted this: "When I look at all of things together, I don't have any more concerns with Mr. Silva's fighting Saturday than I would have any other fighter," Feinstein said. That was a quote from Dr. Aaron Feinstein. Silver's 47 told MMA Weekly is an interview that was recorded last month, aired earlier this week, that he was knocked out twice during his training camp, raising regulatory red flags. Silva team sent out a statement this week stating that Silva's native language isn't English. He is from Brazil, and his first language is Portuguese. And Silva misspoke. On Wednesday, Silva told ESPN that he was just joking in the interview, and the commission made it do more medical testing after commissioner saw the remarks. And this is quote. This is quote from Anderson Silva. When I'm talking about the knockout, it just helps the teammates who helped me to lift them up, Silva said. I was just joking. It's crazy, but it's fine. Paul said this after the news interview on Thursday that he had no concerns at all about the meeting would go and was confident he'll be fighting Silva on Saturday. So that was the key there for the big fight for Anderson Silva and Jake Paul there. So that was a key thing. Let's talk about a little bit of Tom Brady in the Thursday night football game here. Matchup. I'm trying to hold off here. Craig, he should be joining me just momentarily, probably getting his coffee made, get ready. Let's talk about this real quick here. If you want to help us out, if you really want to help us out, you can support me by sending stars, and help the All Sports All Plays Network earn money to make more content. You can support All Sports All Plays Network by sending stars, and stars will help all Plays All Sports Network get a tongue twisted anyway. But my boys here, Craig can do all the festivity because I get tongue tied sometimes, going reading stuff here. So,
All right. Good morning, Ray. How are you?
I'm doing good. How you doing? How was your eventful morning?
It was good. The morning just literally jumped from one thing to the next. But hey, we're here. I'm happy to be here this morning. It's great Friday morning.
Yes, it is a great Friday morning to me. Taking the wife to the Luke Bryan concert at the Five Star Memorial Arena. That's her favorite singer. So we got tickets yesterday to go to see that. So that's what I'm gonna be doing. I will be taping the Jags Nation here momentarily, probably after this show is over.
Nice.
So we can have that pre-recorded for the 7:00 spot. So if you want to listen to Jags Nation, will be pre-recorded, but you can go ahead and listen to the strategy of how the Jaguars will beat the Denver Broncos this weekend.
Yeah, it was my night was fun last night. I got a chance to watch the Thursday night football game. Took the wife and the kids out to Top Golf. Kids got to experience that for the first time. That was fun. But yeah, that's kind of what we ended up doing for my birthday. We just we went out. I did a little bit of work and then we just spent some family time. Went to Top Golf. It was fun.
Yeah, so you went to Top Golf down in Orlando, right?
Yeah, there's one like 15 minutes from me in Lake Mary. So it's like just outside of Orlando. Yeah, we took them there. They had never done it before, so they got to experience what Top Golf, what the game of golf is like. Kids, I will say, kids pick things up so quickly.
Oh yeah,
they pick things up so quickly.
Now, which level are you on? The bottom, middle, or the top?
Oh no, we went to the top.
Yeah, the top's easy because you ain't got to put the height on it. I done all three levels. You do the first level, you better be a great driver because you got to get the ball up there to get to go anywhere. The middle level is all right. The top level is the best because you ain't got to lift it. You just can line drive it right off and get to where you need to be.
Yeah, yeah. But they got to experience that. What the game of golf is all about because so we got two kids. One's 11, one's 8, and the 8-year-old I take him to batting cages for baseball, and it's right next to Top Golf. So we go there. He's like, I tell him about this place, and he's like, oh, well, I want to go one time. So okay, we'll take you there. Figure out a time we can do that. And so we finally went, and man, they had a blast. It was cool. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we have a Top Golf here in Jacksonville, right at the town center, but they also got the freaking thing that look like you can go skydiving. They got that little skydiving thing that costs you $92 just for 30 minutes.
Yeah, iFly.
Yeah, 115 for
cool.
for 40 minutes, I think. And then you want to pay the top price, $323, you can get a full hour.
Yeah, I mean, even Top Golf's not cheap. I think we spent like $200 last night just with food and the bay and everything like that. But it was cool, man. It was a lot of fun. They had a good time. That's what matters.
If you're a former military watching and you want to go to Top Golf, Tuesdays on Golf Top here in Jacksonville is Military Appreciation Day, which you can get the whole bay and you only pay half the price at $14. You'd be paying $14. So
there you go. That's legit. That's legit.
So you veterans, you want to go out there, you can get a full bay, go ahead.
Nice. Did you go over socials and stuff yet? No?
No.
All right.
Yeah, you have that on your computer, so.
Well, it's in the present. It's in the present thing at the bottom.
Okay.
It's loaded in, but it's all right. So hey, good morning, everybody. Ray Cruz here holding it down. Had some fun last night in Jacksonville. Going to that Luke Bryan concert. I couldn't remember if you said it was last night or if you got
it's today. So taking today. I'm taping the Jags Nation so I can go with my wife. So we're having a date night.
Nice. Well, hey, good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. It is October 28th. And we are here live on the All Sports All Plays Network. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and of course on the Fox D app, the Tiki Live app, and Roku, and a few others to be named later. You want to check us out on social media? We've got a lot of great shows. Jag Nation's coming up today. Horseshoe Talk comes up today. You got College Football Breakdown this weekend. Red Kingdom is this weekend. A lot of great shows here on the All Sports All Plays Network. If you want to check out any of that great content, you got to follow us on social media. Facebook at All Sports All Plays, on YouTube, ASAP Sports Network, on Twitch at ASAP Network, and on Twitter at ASAP Network 1. If you like the content, you want to help out the stream, you want to help out the network, like, comment, subscribe, share. We like to interact with everybody in the comments section. Whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, it doesn't matter. We like to answer your questions, and we like to hear your takes on some of the biggest sports news around the country. So speaking of that, last night, Thursday Night Football, we talked about it a little bit yesterday. I watched most of the second half. I didn't really watch the first part of the game, but I had a chance to watch the second half. And what did you see? What was your biggest takeaway from the Ravens win in Tampa to go 5-3?
My biggest thing is just watching Tom Brady play. You know, his play has been suspect most of the time. He did pretty good in this ball game up to a certain point, but you got to give your hats off to the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson coming back in this ball game. The backup Blaine Gabbert sat next to him, offering words and confidence, while quarterback Wayne Griffin, the quarterback coach Clyde Christian, took turns patting him on the back. That was Tom Brady right there for you. But you know, to me, is Brady losing confidence in himself? That example right there, when I read the recap and trying to run my notes, this stuck out to me. When you have Blaine Gabbert sitting next to Tom Brady and offering words of comfort, while the fellow quarterback Ryan Griffin and quarterback coach Clyde Christian took turns and patting him on the back. So to me, is Tom Brady losing confidence in himself? If it is it good for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or is it time to say, hey, Tom, you might just turn it in and go your separate ways right now, because you can't have an uncomfortable Tom Brady at a quarterback position right now. And that's turning doom to them. I mean, it's his third straight loss for the first time in his career.
First time since 2002 that he's had 3 straight losses in a season. And one of the things I look at in this game, it stood out so much was multiple times in the night, Brady and Mike Evans are not on the same page. He's throwing it to one spot in the field, and Mike Evans is just not on the same page. So he goes to the sideline. I think it was on a 3-and-out in the second half. He walks over to the sideline. He sits down, and he takes his helmet off. He just drops it. You can just tell he just looks defeated right now. He looks defeated. He gets up and he's going to talk to, he sat next to Byron Leftwich and going over what just happened in that series. And then he goes and talks to his offensive lineman. And then you can just tell the offensive lineman, it's really hard to pick that stuff up. But to me, it just seems like Brady doesn't have this team. This team does not have his back anymore. It just seems like they just know that, yeah, he's going through some stuff, but he's not here. There's something going on there that maybe I think it was John the Judge Mathis here on the ASAP network. I think he put something out last night on Facebook about it, where it's just Father Time maybe finally caught up to him. I don't know what it is, but Brady doesn't look bad. They were talking about some of the next level stats for Brady. He's getting the ball out quicker than he has in his entire career. He's getting these out, but the problem is that I don't know if he wasn't doing the off-season program with his teammates to help get on the same page. He's just kind of at that point in his career where in the off-season and in the season, he's doing commercials and he's doing these other things and not focusing on football. I don't know what it is. All I can say is from what my eyes told me last night, Brady does not have this team anymore. He's not, they're not on the same page. He looks defeated. He's beyond the point of anger, I think, now. But we've seen him have some outbursts on the sidelines. This last week, like last night, we didn't even see that fire anymore. We just see Brady goes to the sideline and his shoulders, you can just tell he's sulking on the sideline, and then he's trying to figure out what's going on. But I think that to me was the biggest takeaway, is that I don't know if it's part because Bruce Arians is gone and Todd Bowles took over, but not much turnover outside of that has changed on the team from a coaching staff. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on, but on my eyes tell me that he doesn't have this team anymore. Even like his best receiver, Mike Evans, is not on the same page with him. I don't know what's going on, and I don't know if Tampa is going to be able to dig out of this hole.
Well, if you look at it this way here, Tampa grabbed the lead at 10-3 in the first quarter. But they wouldn't find the end zone again until 53 seconds left in regulation. When Brady found Julio Jones on the 8-yard strike, it was the Pair's first touchdown of the season. Jones, who were supposed to play a big role in their offense, missed the past 3 games with knee injury. So, I mean, Brady's number wasn't bad. It was 26 out of 44 passing, 325 yards with 1 touchdown for the Ravens. Has thrown for NFL high 2,267 yards with 9 touchdowns and interception on the year. But his QBR is only 49.5, ranked number 18th in the league. You know.
And even in that touchdown that came at the end, they were down. Like, they needed to score, get a 2-point conversion, and then get an onside kick and get a field goal. And so, like, Baltimore, I understand what Baltimore was trying to do. The first half, they realized, or they know, they can see the injury report. They know the depth chart. They know that Tampa is depleted in the secondary. So they came out trying to throw, which is completely against their identity. And they struggled. They did not look great throughout the first half. But then the second half, I think the first drive, I want to say it was the first drive coming out of halftime. They had 5-6 straight run plays. They just went run, 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 run. They were telling Tampa, we know your secondary is depleted, but this is who we are. This is what we do. And they gave that confidence back to that offense to go, our identity is to run the football. And that's what we're going to do in the second half. And you see that wore down Tampa over time. And it just, I give them credit for getting it back on track. But I don't know if this was more of Baltimore just made adjustments and went out and made plays, or if Tampa's just not the same Tampa that we're accustomed to seeing.
Well, also, this is what happened too, is defensively things unraveled in the second half after top outside linebacker Shaquille Barrett left the game with Achilles injury, which source told ESPN the team fears will end his season. The Bucs surrendered 3 touchdowns after that, and the offense couldn't keep pace. That's the problem. When you lose one of your outside linebackers and your core defensive player, who is pretty good against the run and passing, but he's also a defensive leader. When you lose that leadership with Achilles injury, and hopefully he'll get a speedy recovery. We hope he won't be a season in, but usually when you get Achilles injury, it ends your seasons, and then you got to go and rehabilitate and all. And hopefully you don't have to have surgery or stuff like that to repair it. Hopefully it's just a Achilles sprain, not a full blown Achilles coming off the bone type deal, which would end your season and probably the first 3 or 4 weeks of next season too. So it depends on how bad it is. So we'll have to wait for the MRI to come out there. But it was definitely, and this has come from Lavonda Davis, said it was definitely tough. Linebacker said of losing the game with Brady. It's just the thing, he won over his career, the types of guys he is, the type of man he is, the type of football player is, the type of leader he is, definitely hard. He's feeling all the same emotion we feel. We definitely got to try to turn things around. I mean, the teams are saying the right thing. They're not turning against Brady, but how far will Brady carry this team? I mean, right now, your defense is now going to be without your defensive leader and Shaquille Barrett. So they got to come up with someone on the trade deadline coming up here soon to try to get some replacements or sign some free agency or players off the free agency list and try to multiply what they're going to miss with Shaquille Barrett.
Yeah, if you mentioned that the trade deadline, what can the Bucs do? The stat sheet lied to me last night because we talked about this yesterday. Outside of Leonard Fournette, they do not run the football with anybody else on this team. Last night, Rachaad White, their young backup running back, he looked, when he got the football in his hands, he looked like he could give this team a spark. And he only had 4 carries. So I must have seen the only 4 carries that he had in the entire game. But he averaged almost 5 yards a carry. If you want to turn this thing around, if you're Tampa Bay, you want to turn this thing around, what did they do really well on the first drive that they basically abandoned the rest of the game? They ran the football. Leonard Fournette, yes, he averaged under 3 yards a carry last night. He got a touchdown, but if you're Tampa, I don't know what the problem is. Brady and Leftwich and Bowles all have to sit into a room together and they got to hash this stuff out, because you can't, as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, be sitting at 3-5 and run the ball for 44 yards. You only ran the ball 15 times total. 15 times. Your leading rusher was Leonard Fournette with 9 carries. And the next person was Rachaad White at 4. Rachaad White looks like the best running back on this team, and they ran him 4 times. The only time they ran, I kind of feel for Julio Jones. He's coming off that injury, and they didn't really put him in position to succeed because they put him on like a jet sweep. Didn't get a single yard. He just got back to the line of scrimmage, and then he went back off the field. And he didn't play basically again until the 4th quarter. But if you're Brady and Bowles and Leftwich, lock yourselves in a room, hash this out, talk to Tom Brady and go, hey, man, are you in or you're out? Like, what's going on here? All right, do you want to be here the rest of the year? If not, go announce your retirement. We'll go put Blaine Gabbert out there, and that's fine. Like, you've got to put your foot down here and then figure it out. If he says he's all in, excellent. figure out how to run the football more. You weren't down that bad until maybe, 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter when Baltimore took a bigger lead. I think it was 27-16. When they finally got that lead, when they finally stretched that lead to 27-16, you're like, okay, now Brady's got to come out and throw. But leading up to that, they still had this game within reach, but they just abandoned the run game. You already have the worst rush offense in the NFL. And this is a game that I honestly thought that they could have got it back on track. If they were going to win, they would have to get it back on track. And they started that way, but they got to sit in a room, the three of them all together, and basically figure it out. Trying not to swear. I'm trying to be nice. You got to figure this out because either Brady's in or Brady's out. If he's out, perfect. Kick him to the curb as soon as possible. No offense to him. He's the greatest quarterback of all time that we've seen in this generation. He's the greatest quarterback this generation. You can even throw like Peyton Manning's name out the window there because championships. But Brady at this stage in his career, 45 years old, they don't look like Brady is the best option for them at quarterback. Injuries have made it a problem too. But you've got to sit in a room and figure out, Tom, are you in or Tom, are you out? Make that decision first, and then you can figure out what to do next.
I mean, if you look at that touchdown drive they did in the first quarter, Tucker kicked 65 yards through the end zone. The ball, Baltimore's 35 to the end zone. So I mean, they started off at the 25. Then Brady passed incomplete short. First play was to Odin, who was dropped the. I guess he dropped the pass. Leonard Fournette ran off right tackle to the Tampa Bay 34 for 9 yards. Fournette again came right back to right tackle again, right off the same play, back to back. He gained 5 more yards. He gained 14 yards right there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Then it goes back to Tom Brady's short right to Keith to Tampa Bay 48 for 9 yards. He's throwing short passes. Short middle pass again to Godwin, who pushed the ball to the Baltimore 8 for 44 yards. So they threw short and had Godwin break tackles. Get them all the way up to the Baltimore 8 for 44 yards. Fournette to the Baltimore 10, lost 2 yards. Second and goal, Brady incomplete pass to Mike Evans. Penalty, Baltimore Peters defensive holding, 5 yards and forces to Baltimore's 10. No play.
Yep.
First and goal, Fournette up the middle for Baltimore's 1 for 4 yards. Then second and goal, Fournette 1 yard rush, and Coop extra point is good. Then they had a field goal, which Fournette led that charge a little bit with Tampa to the Tampa Bay 37, no gain. Mike Evans had to the Baltimore 40 for a 23-yard gain. And then Brady passed to Godwin again to the Baltimore 31 for 9 yards. And then Fournette to the right into the Baltimore's 30 for 1 yard. And then Brady passed short to Godwin for 22, 8 yards. So they did more passing than they do running. And then when you talk about White, they did do a short pass to White to the Baltimore 13 for a negative 2 yards. So he didn't get nowhere when that pass play. And then here you go, Tom Brady incomplete to the left to Mike Evans. Tom Brady incomplete, short middle to Odin. And then they kicked the field goal for 31 yards out. Then the rest of the night is punt for Baltimore, punt for Tampa, punt.
Yeah.
And then
the thing that on that, you mentioned that first drive, 8-play, 75-yard touchdown drive. They ran the ball. They ran the ball 1, 2, 3, 4 times. 4 times in 8 plays. And you mixed in some short passing routes to Godwin that you mentioned. That was something that after that first drive, you could even look at the second drive you talked about, the field goal drive. It was 10 plays, but they started abandoning the run already on the second drive of the game. And then a couple of drives, it was rush, pass, punt. Rush, pass, punt. Like, you got to mix it up a little bit, but for the Buccaneers, like, you have to you got to mix it up. I don't know if it's because, like I said, I saw most of the second half, but you saw in that first drive, they mixed up their play calling and they utilized Fournette, they utilized Godwin, and they didn't really take a ton of shots downfield. So then as that came up, as they started creeping up to the line, now you're starting to see in some of these later drives, rush up the middle 3 yards or less. Rush up the middle 3 yards or less. And then they're down. Now they're in a third and medium, third and long situation where they have to throw it. And that's essentially what you're running into. If you're Tampa is then at that point, then they started abandoning the run altogether. But you've got to figure out a way to get, what Leonard Fournette is about now. You know what his skill set is now. He's basically should be a goal line back. Utilize him a little bit, but you got to give more carries and more snaps to Rachaad White, and you've got to get with Brady and figure out what the hell is going on between his ears right now, because he's not there. He looks defeated. He looks like he's lost the respect of the locker room, or at least his offensive line. And it's just, there's a lot of question marks that the Buccaneers have to figure out right now. And if they continue this trend and not win, Damian said to put Trask in the game. I don't know, figure out something, because at that point, like the NFC South is not a great division right now. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers were tied for the lead at 3-4. They were tied at the top of the division at 3-4. If you continue this downward trend and you end up being second, third, fourth in the division by the end of the year, I would not be surprised that if partway through this season, Brady retires. He just retires. Because he hates losing. And that would be a really bad way for him to go out. But when you don't do any OTAs, you don't work with your team in the offseason, you've got distractions going on outside that you're not, I don't know, whatever reason, the team doesn't have his back. And now you're starting to see the effects of that after that. You started 2-0 and now they're sitting at 3-5. There's something that needs to change. And I don't think that Tampa Bay is going to be willing to change it until it's much, much too late.
Well, what they need to change is they need to start winning at home. They're 1-3 at home and 2-2 on the road. They're 2-1 in their division, but 3-2 in conference. So if you look at that breakdown, they're losing most of their game. They're losing quite a few home games, which you're supposed to be winning more home games than you do on the road. And right now they're 2-2 on the road and 1-3 at home.
Yeah, I think he should have stayed retired. I think I get it. Maybe the retired life wasn't what he thought it was, and that pull to play, that emotional pull to continue to do what you've done for over 20 years is telling you like, hey, come on back. And you see that he still can perform, but the problem is that with him being retired and then coming back later, it put the team in a position to where he's clearly not on the same page with his offense. And even if you've got backups in at offensive line, you've got backups in across your roster, you as a quarterback, you're the leader of that team. How you go is how the rest of the team goes. And that's something that you could tell between him and Mike Evans, not on the same page whatsoever last night. They're trying to talk it through and figure it out. Brady's looking at the sideline like, Mike Evans is in the wrong, right? And Mike Evans is looking at Brady like, hey man, you called this. What, so they've got to figure that out. But that's what happens when you have somebody, and Brady's mentioned it himself in the past, you've got to be all in. If you're not all in, you're not going to be successful. So it was such a high note. That was what Brady mentioned. Al Michaels had gave everybody a clip from an interview he did with them and asked him about when he thinks it'd be time to retire. And he said after a Super Bowl. And at that point, that was probably the highlight. That's probably when he should have rode off. Like, you're not messing up your legacy or anything like that, because now people aren't really going to remember this part of Brady, because no one really remembers Montana for the way he went out, playing in Kansas City. He had some successful years, but no one's going to remember that part of Montana's career. People will probably forget about Brady after he won the Super Bowl, and they'll kind of just forget about the rest of that over time.
No, not me. I'm a stats guy.
I know you won't. You have a great memory.
I will sit here and pinpoint certain things that he should have done. But when you talk about athletes who are what you a one in a century type deal, like you had Montana, you had Brady, but they didn't know when to retire. Michael Jordan had a problem, but he didn't know when to retire either. He retired twice, 3 times, and still came back out because he couldn't figure out what he's a competitor.
Let's be honest. Jordan could still play in this NBA. But even at almost 60 years old, Jordan could still play.
I mean, he has beaten half his team anyway in one-on-ones. So.
He can still. But anyway, sorry, go ahead.
But making the point is, they don't know when to retire. They don't know when to let go. Manny did it the best because he knew his body. He knew his limitation. But again, Manny didn't have the wife to come out every 5 minutes and say, hey, you need to go and retire. You need to do this and this. He ain't had no pressure from his wife. His wife was loving him because his wife is not making more money than he is. When you're married to a woman who makes more money than you are, and knowing her career is going, it's time for him to go home and be with his family and his kids. He tried that. He decided to come back. He said he had unfinished business. What's he going to have to do after this season? Because right now, Tampa is not going to win the Super Bowl. Tampa is struggling behind the Atlanta Falcons right now, who leads the NFC South by 1 game. And you're tied
going to make playoffs at this point.
And you're tied with the Carolina Panthers, New Orleans, at a 3-5 record.
I tell you what right now. Let me see this real quick. I want to show everybody this. And let's look at, I'm going to pose this question.
If you look
at
it,
you continue for a minute. I'm gonna get ready.
If you look at the situation that Tom Brady and this Tampa Bay is in, even though you got players coming out saying, yeah, Brady's this and this, we want to play with Tom Brady forever, there is some tension in this locker room between Mike Evans and Tom Brady. They just don't want to air it out into public because you could tell on the football field they're not in sync. Last year, Brady was more in sync with Mike Evans than he was this season. So one of 2 things is going on. The 2 weeks that he took a break away from the team to take care of some personal business has gotten into his head. Something else is in his head. Behind great athletes, there is always a woman that when you have a big breakup that you've been with most of your life and have kids with, it's going to be emotionally charged. Is he emotionally into this football season? I don't know, because he looks pretty awful. He looks like he don't get no sleep. He needs my CPAP machine to help him sleep. I think he has some sleep apnea in this case here. I don't think he gets enough sleep because he got big bags under his eyes. He doesn't look like a freaking Tom Brady that we be full-eyed and talking about stuff. So, I mean, there is some serious issues. Is it time for Tom Brady to walk away? I say yes. I think it's just time for him to just leave. Yeah.
So that brings me to this. I'd take a minute, prep everything before we brought this up. So let's look at the Buccaneers' remaining schedule. The question that is posed, let us know in the comments what your answer to this is. Can the Buccaneers still make the playoffs? Now, the easy answer is yes, because of the division they're playing in. But let's look at their schedule. All right. So you can see, those of you that are watching right now, you can see it on screen. They play the Rams and the Seattle Seahawks in the next 2 weeks. No offense, I don't think they can beat either one.
But they're playing at home. They're 1-3 at home.
Well, I don't think at this point it matters whether they're playing at home, on the road. I don't think it matters.
Well,
I think the Rams are still struggling. That's true. They're still struggling on offense. Trying to get more some protection for Matt Stafford. But the Rams, I think they'll lose. I think they can lose to the Rams. Seattle, the way that Seattle's playing right now, they're back. The strength of their team is on the back of their run game and Kenneth Walker III and their defense. And if Geno Smith continues to play the way that he's playing, they will lose that game too.
That problem in that game is Seattle's got a long distance to go across the pond because that game's in London.
If there's anything I've learned or been reminded of this year about Pete Carroll and the way he coaches the Seahawks, don't count him out. Because now that they got rid of Russell Wilson, they don't have to worry about the egos that are in that quarterback room. You now have a guy in Geno Smith who's got a ton to prove. You've got a roster that was looked at in the preseason like they're going to finish in the bottom of the division. No one's expecting anything of them. Their defense is playing better than expected. Kenneth Walker III looks like the guy that a lot of scouts thought he was going to be. And he's looking really good. As soon as he came back from that injury, it took him a little bit to get going, but he's now looking like a feature back that Seattle was hoping to get in, like a Rashad Penny and guys that they had drafted earlier in previous years. So that combination, I think Seattle can, even traveling across country, I think Seattle can take down Tampa in Tampa Bay, and then Tampa goes on their bye week. So we could be seeing a 3-7 Buccaneers team at the bye week. A 3-7 Buccaneers team at the bye week. Then when they come off their bye week, you've got 4 road games left and 3 home games. And you just basically, you're going back and forth. Road, then home, road, then home, road, then home. Cleveland, that's a toss-up game at this point anymore. New Orleans is a toss-up game to me also, because especially if Andy Dalton's the quarterback. Now, that news came out yesterday. Andy Dalton is the starter, even though Jameis Winston is back officially healthy. They're rolling with Andy Dalton. So if you got Andy Dalton still as your quarterback till week 13, the Saints play a lot better with him at the quarterback position. So that's a toss-up game. 49ers on the road, Niners win that game. They're not going to beat Cincinnati.
Cincinnati's without Jamar Chase for 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay, so 6 to 8 weeks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That means he'd be back by that time. He might be back by that time. Arizona, if you don't have Shaq Barrett, you're one of your best defensive players against Kyler Murray and company. Arizona is going to be a tough game. Carolina already showed that they can beat Tampa Bay. They already did it. And then the Falcons are playing a lot better than people were giving them credit for this year as well. So Sting Sun Ray says he thinks to go 0-7 after the bye. I mean, and unfortunately, I tend to agree. I don't think they'll go 0-7, but I think the only games you could win potentially, maybe Atlanta, maybe Carolina, New Orleans, maybe Cleveland. So you could get 4 wins out of that, I think. But I think optimistically, if you're looking at what's the ceiling for this team, 7 wins, maybe 8, I think is the ceiling right now for Tampa. And that's not going to be good enough to get in the playoffs.
Unless they win the division.
Yeah, unless their division, they win it at 7-10 now, which would be completely awful. That would be one of the worst divisions, I think, in NFL history. If a team wins the NFC South at 7-10, I think that would probably be the worst division ever in NFL history.
I mean, possibly.
You look at their schedule. How many wins do you see on that schedule, Ray? I don't see many.
I say maybe the Rams. Maybe. If we're lucky.
They could.
Seattle, it's still a tough situation because there's a lot of pins on Geno Smith and the quarterback position for Seattle, not turning the ball over. But it's also a key, too, when the MRI comes back for Shaq Barrett, too, because he's the heart and soul of their defense. Everybody's mentioned it. They lost a captain on their defense. And what happens when you lose a captain on your defense and they don't have nobody who can step up and replace him? That means your defensive captain is going to be in trouble, whoever they got as the defensive captain, because he's got to fill a good amount of plays and shoes what Shaq Barrett does for them. And the intertwine that he can do in stopping the run and stopping the passing of the tight end. So you got to look at the situation of the defensive side too. Plus, you got to figure out what Brady's head's at right now, because like you said, this is only his third straight loss since 2002. You're talking about 20 years ago. 20 years ago that Tom Brady has lost 3 in a row. He has done it now. Now we're saying his age at 45 years old. Is this the time that he is now showing Father Time has now finally called him up after he's supposed to call him up when he turned 40? Because most NFL quarterbacks turn 40. Father Time has already taken over their body. Look at Matt Ryan. Father Time.
Sting Sun Rays said it earlier, about 10 minutes ago, that the year in 2020, that was the year that we thought Brady would look like he does right now. And hey, to his credit and to Tampa Bay's credit, they were able to put enough talent and a good offensive line around him that they could cover up a lot of these things. But now you've got a depleted offensive line. Clearly the play calling or something is not, they're not on the same page. And now we're starting to see that defense can only hold up for so long. And now losing Shaq Barrett, one of the better defenses in the league, loses one of their best players. It's going to be a struggle for Tampa to even go 500 the rest of the year after their bye week, let alone try and make the playoffs. So I think that's going to be some questions are going to get answered over the next few weeks in Tampa Bay. Does Tom Brady finally call it quits? Does he finally actually retire this time? Does he do it mid-season? What's the fallout going to be from here? And I think that's something that we'll learn over the next week to really 3 weeks. I think once we get to the bye week, if Brady's going to retire, I think that probably would be around the bye week. Probably stick it out for a few more weeks. And if they lose 2 more games and drop to 3-7 going into the bye week, I would not be surprised to see Brady go, all right, we tried. It's time. Like, it's time that I got to go.
Now, I won't say him leaving after the bye week. I say if they figured once they get eliminated from the playoff spot, when you put that little, say they're eliminated from the playoffs, then that's when you might see Brady walk away. Brady's not going to walk away from a team that has not been eliminated from a playoff spot. That's just his MO.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
no, I agree. That's generally how he does that.
So if he
and with how bad this division is,
so if he officially eliminates Tampa Bay from the playoff contention, Then you might say, hey, you might go up to the coach and say, hey, look, I'm not coming back next year. You got about 4 or 5 more games left. Let's see how the future quarterbacks and Blaine Gabbert and whoever else, Griffin on the back, on the tail end, that have them activated. I'm going to leave. I'm going to go off in the sunset. I'm going to leave your team. I'm going to leave this team in some hands where you can see what you got next year. So if you figure you got to go out and get you a quarterback, you know, out in the free agency, you can go ahead and do that because you know what you got in these quarterbacks. So if Brady is an ultimate teammate that people says he is, if they get eliminated from the playoff spot, you probably see him run out in the sunset in a stallion horse, going out, trying to get back with his wife and family, say, hey, I'm done with football, you know. But now the question is, if he's done with football, is he going to do what Peyton and them do, like a little podcast, or will he go out and get him a job, or who's going to recruit him? Because first you got to get approved by his wife, whatever he does next. So that's going to be the thing that, you know, you gotta look for. So,
jeez, yeah, that's definitely going to be something to watch out. So here's my quick question. You got if just hypothetically, and this is kind of to Sting Sunray's comment here, endless cycle returns for hunting for the right quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Let's just say they get eliminated from the playoffs. Tom Brady does retire, or he retires at any point before the end of the season. Who do you roll with if you're Tampa? Do you roll with Kyle Trask, who you have for a couple more years until 2025? Or do you roll out with Blaine Gabbert, the 33-year-old career backup who is on a 1-year contract?
I will roll out Trask because I want to find out what I got with him. That's going to be the key. I will roll him out because you know what Blaine Gabbert can do. You know, he does mount of nothing with nothing. If he gets pressure, he's shell-shocked, you know. But you want to see what Trask can do. You want to see if he's the quarterback that you think he was when you drafted him. You haven't seen him play except in preseason. You haven't seen him play in an NFL game against a number one team and a number one defense. He's the young quarterback who came from basically nowhere. Nobody wanted him in college, so that, you know, Florida decided to take a chance on him when he was Kyler Murray's backup in high school.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mr. Trash, you want to come out and use your name, Trash? Are you going to be Trash?
I wondered if you did that on purpose or not, but you did.
If you're going to be Trash, or are you going to be the one that you seen at Florida that took a team and that was decimated and took him and put them on your back and win certain games with them? Can you be that type of quarterback? That's going to be the question. And that's what Tampa Bay needs to know. If they got the right quarterback sitting there in trash, whatever you want to call it, you know, is he pure trash? You know, that's going to be the thing, though.
I see this. Let's just say for whatever reason, Brady's like, you know what? They're still in the playoff race, but he decides to retire. Like right now, let's say they're 3-7 at the bye week, and he does retire. I would not put it past Todd Bowles and company to go, you know what? We still got a chance at the playoffs. Let's roll with Blaine Gabbert. Let's roll with the veteran. I'm going to laugh so hard on this show if that is what happens, where Brady retires mid-season, they roll out with Blaine Gabbert as their quarterback, and if they still feel like they have a shot at the playoffs. I would just laugh so hard, because it's like you're still hemorrhaging your future. Because I agree with you. If Brady retires mid-season, whether they're in the playoff hunt or not, I think you have to roll out Trask, because he's still on a rookie deal. You got him till 2025. You got to find out, is he a guy that you can roll with in the future? If not, the free agency market for Tampa Bay next year would look really interesting, depending on who does or does not retire. But I think I would tend to agree with both of you guys. I think that they would probably go out and get Probably go out and get a free agent. I doubt they would draft a quarterback this upcoming draft because you have no idea what you've got in Trask. You have no idea what you've got in Brady even right now. And then you still got Blaine Gabbert, who's been around as a veteran now for a couple years in that system with Byron Leftwich. So I would not be entirely surprised if they roll out Blaine Gabbert for a couple weeks and then roll out Trask or whatever combination, and then go out and just get a free agent, somebody that I don't know. Do you bring back Jameis Winston? There's a ton of options that you could go with here, but Tampa's going to look like a much different team here, I think, this offseason.
Well, if you're going to go get Jameis Winston and you want him to play good, put a bunch of crab legs in the end zone and tell him to go steal it.
I think with Jameis Winston is you kind of see what that looks like. You kind of see what that looks like with his time, not only in Tampa. I think he led the league in touchdowns, but also led the league in picks. He was one of the only guys I can remember in my lifetime that threw for over 30 touchdowns. It was like 20 to 30 picks or something like that. It was wild.
30 picks.
Yeah, it was wild. He's the definition at quarterback position of a riverboat gambler. He just somebody's open down there. I'm gonna chuck it. We'll see what happens.
Well, I mean, I give him a benefit of doubt when he was in Tampa because he didn't get his eye correction until he got to New Orleans. I mean, he was at some. I think he had some eye problems, or he was colorblind, and thought that the other team's jersey was his white jersey on there too. So I mean, some people can't see red. Some people can't see red.
The funniest thing to me in that is, how do you draft a guy and roll him out as your quarterback and not pick up the fact that he's got vision problems?
Well, let me tell you the simple reason. They picked him up because in his career at Florida State, Jimbo Fisher won a championship with him. And what happens when you win a championship? Team wants that quarterback. Oh, he's going to be the great thing of sliced bread. But when you look at the video of the championship game, what do you see Jameis Winston doing mostly? I can't see like, okay.
That should have been a red flag. That, like, how many times when you see him, he's doing that, even his first couple of years in the NFL. Like, how do you not catch up on that? How do you not pick up on that?
And if you didn't watch some of the second half of that championship game, they didn't single anything to him. They had a running back come in every play, give him the play. Whoever's going out, come in with the play, give him the play, and then he calls the play. And the rest of the championship game, it was just history after that,
Yeah. All right. We're going to take a quick break. We're heading into the second hour of the show. We come back. We're going to talk a little bit about the upcoming slate for the NFL and college football weekends. We'll be right back.
All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we're making a plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. Network. We on top of our game. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays.
What did you say?
I said Kobe Bean Bryant has been overrated ever since he passed away.
Now, I'd say they could lose about 4, but I don't see them losing 5. You know what I mean?
All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays.
This is the Fox D Streaming Network. Register to come on our channel at foxdnetwork.com.
Welcome back to ASAP in the morning. I always forget how abruptly that Fox D commercial ends. But welcome back. We're going to talk a little bit now into the rest of the weekend for the NFL slate. And I think one of the biggest ones, Sunday morning, we have another London game, Denver Broncos and the Jacksonville Jaguars, basically Jacksonville's second home in London. That's going to be Sunday morning on ESPN Plus at 9:30 a.m. at Wembley Stadium. I know, Ray, you are the host of Jags Nation, and talking about that for your upcoming show, give us a little bit of a taste of kind of what you guys are looking at from Jacksonville's perspective. What do they need to do to take down Denver this weekend?
Well, to me, Jacksonville is going on a 4-game losing streak. They have not been able to stop a team's passing. The run defense has been there, but the teams that can pass on them has been passing on them. Russell Wilson missed last week's game against the Jets, but expected to come back against the Jaguars. But we don't know how healthy his hamstring is going to be. So we're going to have to put pressure on Russell Wilson. We're going to have to put the pressure on him, make him see if he can move and run at the same time. If we can find out he cannot run the ball at all with that hamstring, that could go to our advantage where he could be a sitting duck in that pocket. And we know what happens to a sitting duck in that pocket when they played Matt Ryan in week 2. That means he finds himself on his back plenty of times. But the other turmoil here is going this too is Josh Allen rumor of being traded by the Jacksonville Jaguars. That has now broken the surface of news. So now we got speculation on this part of if the Jacksonville Jaguars on the way of back to rebuilding their defense and their offense with new Cowboy players that Doug Peterson wants on the team. So that's another interesting development for Jaguars. So it's another added to the pressure. But when you talk about Wembley Stadium, you talk about the second home of the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think Jacksonville has a 2-game winning streak going on right now in London. So that's going to be on the thing. They play a little bit better in London for some reason. We can't figure that out either. But still, yes, people say, oh, the national media say the Jaguars are going to go to London, blah, 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 all this stuff. No, Jacksonville Jaguars are not going to London. They are using this London game. I'm going to tell you what they're using this London game for. They're bringing business here to Jacksonville. They reopened the ports in Jacksonville. They took a high-rise bridge down that transfer trucks couldn't get to Talleyrand Port. Now they have flattened it where transfer trucks can get back to Talleyrand Port. So they're bringing in companies from overseas to bring their shipping goods here. Toyota was one of the beneficiaries over going to Wimbledon, and they excavated. Guess what? The home of Toyota's headquarters are now in Jacksonville, and they have it open back to Talleyrand Toyota Port. So their imports are coming back. And then guess what that means? Shad Khan's going to get more money because he's bringing a distribution center for his bumper back here to Jacksonville to put bumpers on the cars when they come off the ship. So that's what they're using this game for, is business-wise, but it also helps a small market team in Jacksonville to get more money because they get all the revenue that comes over from that sellout crowd at Wimbledon Stadium. So it helps a small market team that needs it. We understand that here in Jacksonville. National media doesn't understand. But back to the game here. When I'm going to talk about this game today, I'm going to break it down on the Jags Nation. It's going to be pre-recorded, but I'm going to break it all down to you. I'm just going to give you a synopsis of what I'm going to break it down here. Russell Wilson, if Russell Wilson turns back into Russell Wilson that he was with Seattle, Jacksonville is going to have a long day, point blank. If Russell Wilson is not healthy enough to come back to being a dual threat, that's going to place a hand to the Jacksonville defense. But if Denver needs to get back in the passing game, this is the team that you want to pass against because Jacksonville is not good against the pass. They're better against the run, not good against the pass. But Jacksonville has not put an offense or a defense out there at the same time to play a complete game. If the Jacksonville Jaguar will play a game all the way up to the third quarter And some reason they go to the sideline in the fourth quarter and they hit the panic button. Don't know why they hit the panic button, but it always affects them in that fourth quarter. They don't seem like they forget what they did the first 3 quarters. Point blank. That's what happened against the Giants. That's what happened against the Commanders when they lost. That's happened against the Eagles. That happened against the freaking Texans. That happened against the last time they played the Indianapolis Colts. They forgot what they needed to do, and they did not execute the game plan. But Trevor Lawrence has been playing good the last 3 games for the offense. He had enough games to win. The defense came up with the terrible parts of their demise against the Giants. They had a chance to win that game last week against the Giants, went all the way to the 1-yard line and got stopped when time ran out. So that could have been a different aspect of the game too. But defense gave us some big plays to Daniel Jones running the ball, not passing the ball, but running the ball effectively because their defense was sold to Presley to stop Barkley, which they maintained him with 101, but Dan Jones picked up 115, 117 yards running the ball. So if Russell Wilson cannot do that, it could be a field day for Jacksonville Jaguars in this ball game. But which Russell Wilson will we see? We know Denver's defense is good. Denver is what? Field goal kickers, but probably one of the best in the NFL who's kicked more field goals than anybody to win games. What do you have, 5 field goals in one game? And they won?
Yeah, anybody not named Justin Tucker, you're probably looking at Denver's as one of the other great kickers in the league. I think that game, Jacksonville, Denver, we know about Denver's struggles offensively. I think that's going to be a big key for them is can they actually get Russell Wilson and company on track? Because the rumor is that if the Jaguars win, if Nathaniel Hackett cannot win in London, there's a possibility that he may be out as coach already halfway through his first season. Which actually comes as not much of a surprise to either one of us here on this show. We've seen firsthand what he was like as an offensive coordinator in Jacksonville and how terrible that went. But the fact that he continues to get more jobs is really surprising. But if Jacksonville gets a little bit of a revenge game here on Nathaniel Hackett, which don't be surprised, I think that might be a possibility. Nathaniel Hackett might be out as coach of the Denver Broncos if the Broncos cannot win in London this weekend. So that's a 9:30 a.m. game in London on ESPN Plus. In the 1:00 slate, there's a couple of games that I'm looking forward to. Not only my Detroit Lions are at home against Miami. I'm not even paying much attention to that game because I just want to look at certain things of this might be a revenge game or a game that Dan Campbell might get up a little bit more for, seeing as he was the interim coach there, even though he had more wins as an interim coach at 5-7 in 1 year in Miami than he does in multiple years in Detroit. Just let that sink in for a minute. But the game that I'm looking for in the 1:00 slate, Arizona and Minnesota. Arizona Cardinals, they look like they're starting to get themselves back on track after that Thursday night win against the New Orleans Saints. Minnesota, top of the NFC North. One area that I think really want to key in on this game, Minnesota's passing attack, mainly Justin Jefferson, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. Arizona's pass defense is not dead last, but it's 25th in the NFL in pass defense. That's a matchup that I'm going to look at to be a really big key in this game because the Minnesota Vikings have allowed the 3rd least amount of sacks in the NFL to this point. And if you can allow Kirk Cousins to have time and get the ball down the field to Justin Jefferson, they're going to have a field day. Justin Jefferson, I think, is going to have a great game. It's really going to also depend a little bit on Dalvin Cook. Minnesota doesn't run the ball that much anymore, even with Dalvin Cook in the backfield. I think they're fourth least amount of rushing yards in the NFL through this point of the season. And that's a strength of Arizona. They're top 10 in rush defense right now. So that, I think, if they can get some push in the offensive line to get some yards and at least make the defense honest, that play action is going to be supremely effective for Kirk Cousins. And I think Minnesota can take this game down, but I think it's going to be an exciting game to watch in Minnesota. It's going to be a 1:00 game on Fox. What other, Ray, do you got any other games, I think, in the 1:00 slate that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, the Carolina Panthers at Atlanta Falcons. The NFC South right there, the South. That right there is a big game for the Falcons because they can put themselves 2 games ahead of the Carolina Panthers in this one. Or Carolina can win this one, and they'll have a big freaking mess in the NFC South and gives Brady more hope that they can push ahead in this series. But also the 1:00 slate that I want really going to pay attention to is that New England at New York game. That's going to be the key for Wilson and the Jets, and with the newly running back they require from the Jacksonville Jaguar, and James Robinson will make his debut as a Jet. We know what he can do. I hated to see him leave here, but the writing was on the door when they did not play him last game. Maybe one play. That writing was on the door. Then James Robinson left here, and he aired some the trash he thought he had. I don't think is true. I mean, most people get mad at a team that they left and a bad taste and stuff like that, and they say bad things. But that's okay. I let it go. I still got him on my fantasy football team because I know his ability, what he's going to do.
Yeah, that's one of the other games I think to pay attention to. Jets are hosting the Patriots 1:00 on CBS. That's a game that if you're the New England Patriots, you have to win. You have to win just to keep pace in the division. And I'm really interested to see what kind of a team, who are we rolling out at quarterback? What kind of an offense are we going to see in New England? I know they're going to roll. I think they're going to roll out with Mac Jones again as the starter. Are they going to bench him again partway through for Bailey Zappi? I don't really know. That's what I want to see from New England is what type of an offense are you going to be? Who are you going to stick with at quarterback? That's going to be a very intriguing matchup. Pittsburgh is traveling to Philadelphia. The undefeated Eagles are hosting
Battle
Pittsburgh,
of Pennsylvania.
Yep. I don't really see too much out of this game. Pittsburgh offensively struggling big time. And Kenny Pickett as your quarterback, and with Robert Quinn, the newly acquired defensive end, he suits up for the Eagles. I think they're going to have a field day. I don't see Eagles having too much trouble in this game. Might be a little bit closer in the first half, but the way the Eagles defense can get to the quarterback and the way that they play on offense, the blend of run and pass that they have with Jalen Hurts at quarterback, I think that's going to be an interesting, fun game to watch if you're an Eagles fan. Not so much if you're a Steelers fan. In the 4:00 slot, Tennessee's got Houston. The Giants are at Seattle. 49ers at the Rams, and Washington at Indianapolis. A potential revenge game for Carson Wentz, even though he's not going to be suiting up. The Giants in Seattle is going to be probably the most anticipated outside of San Francisco, LA, just for the names in that. But both teams in the NFC West, San Francisco and the Rams are 3-3. San Francisco's 3-4. Both are within striking distance of the 4-3 Seattle Seahawks in that division. I'm looking at Seattle and the Giants just because I want to see, is Daniel Jones and company for real still? They traded away Kadarius Toney a couple days ago to the Chiefs. Yeah, to the Chiefs. And so they don't have a lot at the receiving core, but they do have a guy in Saquon Barkley that they utilize who's leading the NFL in all-purpose yards and scrimmage yards. And that's something that Seattle has not been able to do well, is defend the run. If the Giants and Brian Dable can do that and be able to establish the run with Saquon Barkley, allow Daniel Jones to do what he did last week, utilize with his feet and with his arm, I think the Giants could come out of that 7-1. It's going to be a tough game. That's going to be a really fun game to watch, in my opinion.
Well, if you look at it this way, you talk about the rush defense of Seattle against the rush offense for the Giants, but you also got to look at the Seattle offense. As the Seattle offense can win the time of possession, keep that offense on the sideline, attack the Giants defense. Giants defense is not that bad. It's not that good either. I mean, the Jacksonville Jaguars moved the ball up and down the field with passing and running the ball. Travis Etienne for the Jaguars had first one play of the game, had over 50 yards rushing in one play. He broke a big run against them. So the Giants defense is not all of that. But you have Geno Smith for Seattle. Can he be the Geno Smith that don't turn the ball over? Giants like to get the turnovers. That gives them short field. That gives their offense back on the field. Their offense is better than their defense. But the problem what you're going to have here is I will force Daniel Jones to be a passer, not a runner. So you stack the line, 8 men in the box. The way the Jaguars did, it was effective most of the day. But that fourth quarter for the Jaguars, they hit the self-destruct button and forgot what they did the first 3 quarters. Because if they would have kept doing what they did the first 3 quarters in that fourth quarter, Giants would have came away with a loss. For some reason, that Jaguar team gets to the fourth quarter, they hit the self-destruct button. Seattle don't hit the self-destruct button in the fourth quarter. Keep what you're doing all season long. Make the Giants play defense, take your drives, get your points, win your time of possession. And also, do not commit penalties, silly penalties like the Jaguars did against them, because that really helped them out too. That took a lot of key moments away from the game. So self-defended wounds, you got to minimize that. Win these categories. You win the time of possession, you win the turnover, you win the red zone touchdown percentage. You have more touchdowns than you do field goals in the thing. If you win all those and you win your first down and third down efficiencies, you win football games. And that's what you got to do against the Giants, because the Giants are going to play a complete game all the way from the first quarter to the fourth quarter. That's the way they beating teams, and that's the way they're going to try to beat you. But Seattle, the difference with Seattle is they have the 12th man in this game. They got to go all the way up to Seattle. Hope it's raining. You know, Seattle likes to rain this time of year, and it's cold. And you got the 12th man, 12 people in the stands. That's got to be really, really loud to make them miscommunicate on the Giants, make them force some turnovers on that. So that's a big thing there. The home field advantage this time. And then it makes the Giants go on the road back-to-back weeks. They had to come all the way to Jacksonville, go back to New York. Now they got to fly across to the West Coast. You know.
Yeah, you'd mentioned a little bit the rush defense. Here's some fun stats for you. The Seattle Seahawks have given up the second most amount of rushing yards in the NFL, over 1,000. And the Giants have also given up the fourth most rushing yards in the NFL. Seattle's given up the third most rushing touchdowns in the NFL to this point in the season going into week 8. So if you are the New York Giants, you've got to utilize Saquon Barkley as much as possible, because that's an area that they really struggle with. But on the flip side, Seattle also has run the ball really well, and the Giants have been giving up a lot. They've been giving up a lot of yardage on the ground. What's going to be a key for Seattle's offense is, can you utilize Kenneth Walker III on the ground to help out Geno Smith a little bit? Because when they're in passing situations, the Giants blitz the second most of any team in the NFL through 7 weeks. They blitz the second most amount of times through 7 weeks in the NFL. So Geno Smith's got to be ready. They haven't been able to get to the quarterback. They're middle of the road. They've only gotten 13 sacks on the year, which is in the bottom half of the league. But they've been blitzing a lot. So that means that Geno Smith, you got to get the ball out quickly, or you've got to maybe run some screens or something to the effect so that way you can get the ball into your playmaker's hands, get it into Kenneth Walker III's hands, get it into your wide receiver's hands, so that way you can minimize that blitz, that pass rush. And then also that defense, they've given up big plays. And that's a way that you can kind of keep this game. You mentioned time of possession. That's why you can keep drives sustained. And then you can really take the ball out of Daniel Jones's hands and Saquon Barkley's hands. And I think that's going to be a big matchup in the 4:00 slate. Sunday Night Football, the Packers and the Buffalo Bills, 8:20 on NBC. I don't really have too much analysis on this game. I think it's going to be a bloodbath. I think it's going to be a bloodbath in Buffalo. The Packers, Aaron Rodgers has been calling out his teammates in the media, not necessarily by name, but he's been calling out his teammates in the media saying, hey, basically we've tried everything. If guys aren't cutting it, they should not be getting reps. They should not be getting playing time. And I agree with that statement. But there's a better way to go about it. But Green Bay is struggling. They don't look like their normal selves on offense, and Buffalo is clicking in multiple areas. I don't think this is much of a game on Sunday Night Football.
A blowout.
Blowout game. You heard it. The man of few words, Ray Cruz, said it's going to be a blowout.
Well, there's nothing to talk about. I mean, you got Aaron Rodgers and Jones as your two main guys on the Green Bay's offensive side. If they can't get the wide receivers going against Buffalo, Buffalo's just going to tee off on Rodgers, and Rodgers is going to be running for his life. You might just put the liquor store on Rodgers and tell the Buffalo Bills chase down the liquor. You know, it's a watered down.
That's a great analogy. I don't think I've ever heard you say that.
It's a watered down. You put liquor on them, tell the boys, hey, you want to go drink? There you go. They have a pool of blood right there for you. If you got vampires on your defense, hey, look at it. Hey, you tell Aaron Rodgers, man, look at it. Got a big time quarterback. They got no weapons, and you want his blood? Go get it. Turn him loose. Because I'm gonna tell you what, you stop that running game, you're gonna turn them one-dimensional, and you better hope that the receivers don't catch the ball on you. Basically, that's all the thing is. Aaron Rodgers can hit him in the hands, can hit him in the chest, and he still can't catch the freaking football. So,
all right, we're gonna shift some gears here. We're gonna still talk football. We're gonna talk some college football. Big matchups this weekend. You've got top 25 matchup. Number 2, Ohio State, traveling to Happy Valley to play against number 13, Penn State. That's going to be Saturday at noon on Fox. You've got the world's largest cocktail party.
I'm
Florida,
going to that
Georgia.
game. I'm going
Florida,
to that
Georgia. Florida is going to. Both of them are going to be playing in Jacksonville, number 1, Georgia, at 3:30 p.m. on CBS. A couple other big matchups as well. You got number 9, Oklahoma State, traveling to Kansas State, number 22, also at 3:30 on Saturday. What? Give us a little sneak peek. College football breakdown Saturday morning. What are you looking forward to this weekend, Ray?
Well, let me put my little Dre hat on here because I need to talk about Dre real quick. Dre, I'm gonna give you a little heads up. It's gonna be a little bit of a bloodbath here in Jacksonville. I think the Gators. Chomp is going to go no chomp, no more. The Bulldogs just going to eat them up. That game right there is the largest cocktail party. Hey, if you're an Uber driver in Jacksonville, you might wait for the game because, by the third quarter, if the game is over, a lot of Florida people will be leaving, and you can make some money right there. So far this week, I made about $285 so far this week, only in 2 days of driving, only 4 hours driving time. 200. Yeah. By the time by the time the night's this afternoon's over, and probably about 2 hours, I'll probably make about $150. So I have enough to carry my wife out to eat and go to the concert with and stuff like that. So they're gonna pay my way. So that's the thing about the largest cocktail party. But hey, if you ain't going to the game, you want to still hang out with the tailgate partiers, just go find you some park and walk in there, and people will hand you some free beer. They don't even know you. They'll come up to you. Hey, you want a beer? Here you go. You know, they're all friendly down here in the Jacksonville area. So if you want to go to the large, that's why it's called the large cocktail party here in the thing. Me and Dre one day are going to have all